thinking in terms of undefended
Okay,
pieces.
my camera
They might be a
was
more
off.
cautious-minded player.
So I missed
Okay,
a
my
lot.
bishop on f5 is attacked. I want to do something about
He's
that.
starting a new
I'm just
game.
going to take
Let's see
him.
if we can get this one.
Keep it simple. Now, he has queen b5 check. Notice that this pawn is undefended. Remember, I was talking about developing that light square bishop early.
A little
Makes this
faster
a weak pawn. So I'm going to play a prophylactic move that defends against queen b5. He castled. I'll just play knight bd7. So far, so normal. I'm going to reinforce this pawn here. He had that pawn defended by his queen, so no tactics or anything possible. Just developing. He's attacking my bishop, so let's retreat. b4. He's already getting a little aggressive on that side of the board. Well, let's castle. He might go b5 and try to storm me. I'm going to break with e5. Before I play e5, I check to make sure it's safe. I have 2 defenders of that. He has 2 attackers, so it's fine. The number of defenders equals the number of attackers. We're fine. Now, what is my threat? My threat is to play pawn e4 and fork him, his knight and his queen. That's not an undefended piece opportunity, but it's a threat nonetheless. So, he took. I'm going to take back. Yep, he recaptures. f4. So when he plays f4, what does he weaken? He kind of weakens the pawn on e3 a little bit. Okay, so I have my eye on that pawn. That's now a backward pawn based on how he's played the position. It can't be defended by the pawn on f2 anymore. So I'm already going to focus on this. With rook f3, he's signaling he's going to go for some sort of kingside attack. Like, I'm pretty sure he's going to play rook g3
Black
or
has his
h3 now.
rook at a good
So I want to be cognizant of that.
too.
If he goes rook h3, he's attacking h7. Do I have it defended sufficiently?
He's moved his,
yes, I do. I have the king and the knight as my
h3.
defenders. He has 2 attackers. Defenders equals attackers, so we're fine. I'm going to play queen e7.
Queen e7.
Yeah, and I'm just going to take aim at this pawn again. This is solid. It allows my rook to come over. Let's go rook a d8.
Okay, that's a good.
He might try to lift this other rook. Who knows? Oh, and one other thing. I wanted to make sure that he couldn't deflect my knight in any way. Actually, with g4, he's trying to exploit that. He's saying, here, go ahead, take my undefended pawn. But if I did that, he would play queen takes h7 check, and I would soon be mated. King f8, queen h8. So I think I'm actually going to stuff my knight on e4 as a way of trying to diffuse his little initiative he has going. So I'm blocking his queen from attacking h7. I like the fact that my knight is supported many times. The pawn's defending it. I have my queen and rook backing it up. Again, if you have trouble with undefended pieces, overprotection is your best friend. You can overprotect till the cows come home until you take care of this problem. It's not a bad strategy. I don't think he really wants to take my knight, because then I get a nice choice between taking with pawn on the queen. He plays g5. Again, he's not really worried if I move this knight, because then he has that attack on h7. I think I'll play g6. Then I can get rid of the queen takes h7 threat once and for all. I've noticed that his rook on h3 was undefended, so I was looking at some tactics for a second based on that. Let's see. His pawn on b4 is kind of weak. This was a good move because it did defend that, so I don't mind that move for him. My rook is x-raying his queen, so I really want to get stuff involving the d4 advance going. But, you know, I really want to get rid of this pawn on c5 too. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and play b6 and try to undermine. I am creating a weak pawn on c6. So before I played b6, I wanted to make sure it was safe to do that. The most likely piece he could use to attack c6 would be his knight, but he's not in a position to maneuver that knight to, like, say, the d4 square quite yet. So I'm thinking he'll take, and then I'll get to take with my bishop. And I like the fact that my bishop's on the diagonal with his king, and it will be attacking the pawn on e3. Okay, he went there. So what do we think his idea is?
He moved on.
I think his idea is to double rooks. He's
H
going to play rook h3.
H3.
I have a couple ways I can deal with this. I could play h5. That's an interesting move. Because then if he takes en passant, I would win his rook. But I think I see a tactic involving this undefended rook, so I'm going to go for it. It's knight takes g5. And if he takes me with his pawn, I take with my queen, and his rook is going to be in trouble, because that's a fork with check. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take. You see how as soon as he undefended that rook again, I had a tactical opportunity.
The rook is not in danger, but
I can't
the
claim
knight's
that's going
in
to
danger
happen
with
every
the
single
pawn.
time
But
that
if he
one of your opponents
captures
undefends their
that,
piece, but
now all he
it's a
has to do is
huge
take
red
the
flag. It's a
pawn
huge
and get
indicator
with the
that
queen
something
just
is
like he
present.
did. Now the rook's in danger, but all he has to
And
do
if
is
you're not in
move
the
that
habit of recognizing
his
that, you're
rook
going to miss a lot of
down
tactical
one
opportunities.
time.
So,
He can move.
even though I was up a pawn in this position
his rook on
to begin with. Actually, was I up a pawn? No, I don't think I was.
F3.
Before I did knight takes g5. Even though I had a good positional game, maybe, I think I'm going to win this game based on recognizing that knight takes g5 opportunity. Okay, here there's lots of targets for us. There's this pawn on h2 we can swoop over and attack. The pawn on b4 is undefended, although I notice if I take that, he might have ideas with knight takes d5. There's an x-ray on my queen. I notice his king is lined up with my rook. We've been discussing this in a couple games, so d4 is a really strong move here. I'm going to spurn the opportunity to take one of his weak pawns in favor of this, just because it's that strong. So that's a pretty brutal move. Yeah, I mean, opportunities involving a rook lined up with a king or a queen, in this case both, those are abundant in games at lower levels. So, okay, so here, I think I can just take on e3. Notice I have a discovered attack on his queen. Also, I'm attacking his bishop. Bad news for him.
Get my watch.
He's going to lose a man one either way with that bishop's going to either get his
I
bishop.
think he's recognizing at this point that he doesn't have much going for him.
Papa.
Hey,
Too many threats.
yeah, I like it. Watch, baby. That's yours or Mama's?
Okay, queen c3. So he did see that his queen was under attack.
Huh?
Unfortunately, it's just kind of too little too late at this point. So I'll just take, and I'm doing that with check 2. Discovered attack. Doesn't have
Now
too many
the queen
options.
is in
He can block or he
line
can
with
move his king to
the
f1.
right. His king was in line
Undefended
with the
piece on
rook.
d1. I can go after that if I want. That's pretty simple. So I see a checkmate in 2, so I'm just going to go for that here. And if king g2 only move, I can play queen takes h2 mate. So that looks like it'll be the end of the game.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, and here we have mate.
Yeah.
Okay, so quick look at this one again. Player playing solid, e3 on move 2. This usually indicates that they're going to play like a Kali system, which involves most of the time playing b3 and bishop b2 later to get that bishop in the game. And here I was talking about how I wanted to recognize that queen b5 check was a threat, because I have developed my light square bishop early. This goes doubly true in d4, d5 openings, because very often you're wanting to get your light square bishop out and this pawn becomes weak. So I played c6, prophylaxis against queen b5 check, taking care of that threat. c4, that's adequately defended for him, so I didn't have any opportunity there. Overprotection, look how many times I've got my focal point in the center, d5, defended. Many, many times. He advanced c5. This is a little bit higher level of a game, I'd say, than the first couple games. I think because my opponent played pretty well. I mean, you can see this player's already formulating some decent plans. Like, his development's good. He's pushing on the queen side. This e5 move just happens to be a really good response here. He did anticipate many of my threats. Like, I'm pretty sure he saw that e4 was a threatened fork. So he captured, and we got this position. Now f4, this kind of relates. It made this a backward pawn. So even though it's not an undefended piece or pawn in the truest sense, it's something that I'm focusing my attention on now, because by him playing f4, that means he can never defend that pawn on e3 with another pawn. It has to be defended by the pieces. And given that I have a half-open e-file, that's right up my alley. So you notice how my next several moves were all moves geared towards that and pumping up the pressure down the file. And I was also recognizing that he was going after the h7 pawn. He's trying to gang up on that. Right. So here, just simple chess, bringing my pieces to the center. Looking at my own position, I was very happy with the type of game that I've developed here. I have one undefended pawn. It's the pawn on b7. Okay, actually I have two. I have the b7 and the a7 pawns. I don't even think I mentioned that in the video because they're very far removed. If I was being really diligent here and thinking about every single undefended thing I had, that would be something I would take into account. But the battle has shifted so much to the king side and the center, and he's not in any way able to take advantage of those. So it was a minor concern. g4, undefending a pawn, but it's totally bait, right? Like if I take, he's able to take on h7. Oh, and I just destroyed the game because I made him move on here. I keep forgetting to do that. You know what? What we'll do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to come back in. I can go to my profile and grab the game. If chess.com responds, it's kind of freezing up on me right now. Oh, well, thank you, Petrosianic. I know you. Thanks for saying good things about my YouTube channel. Oh,
Yeah.
chess.com, why are you lagging now?
All
It's
right.
not letting me get to my game archive. Oh, now it is. Okay.
If you don't know what a principle is a certain type of guideline that can help us have better chess games and to win our games. By this point, you know how to make all the moves, you know some strategies, you know how to checkmate, you even know what stalemate, castling, and en passant mean. But now we're going to help you compete in chess tournaments and find out ways to win against your opponents. Before I begin listing the top 12 chess principles, this is a really important video for you to learn because you need to have some type of steps, some type of direction in order to beat your opponent. There's no such thing as a random win. You either learn how to make a plan to win or you just sit back and just wait till you lose the game. But today we're going to do the 12 chess principles. These principles was written by a master chess player named Bruce Pandolfini. Now Bruce Pandolfini wrote so many books. He wrote over hundreds and hundreds of chess books that could be read from all across the world, and a lot of people have read these books and have gotten better by reading his material. Now he's also taught grandmasters such as Bobby Fischer. Now these principles is going to help you out with your game, and we'll start right now. Number 1, move with purpose. Every time you make a move, you need to make sure that you have a reason and a job for those pieces. So if you're moving up these pawns, just know that there's a reason why this pawn is moved up in the middle. Is to block this pawn from pushing forward. So if you're taking white and you are attacking these two squares, you are stopping other pieces from coming. Now there's a purpose for this move. Sometimes I see people make a random pawn move and they don't know why they made this move. Does this pawn prevent any type of threat or any type of other pieces coming in from this side? Always make sure that you have a purpose for your moves, whether if it is attacking a piece, whether if this bishop is attacking this piece, or you are guarding a certain square or defending your king. Number 2, play for the center. If you are playing for these 4 center squares right here, then you are going to be able to control the game and your pieces will be able to move more freely if you are controlling these squares. So let's look at this right here. If we're going to go here and we're going to push up right here, and white is now being able to control this center. Look at all these squares and look at how much control it has over the other pieces. White has stopped these pawns from moving forward and blocked this bishop from being able to move out. And look, even this bishop right here cannot go out because whatever square it lands on is going to be captured right here. And this knight is blocked in from moving out because it will be captured by this pawn. So if you play for the center, you find a way to control the middle, you will control the game. And that is number 2, playing for the center. Have all your pieces directed towards the center so that your opponents cannot come through and checkmate your king. Number 3, advance both center pawns. These 2 pawns right here are going to be your hardest working pawns in the game. If you can advance your pawns forward as far as you can without it being captured, again, you can control the center of the board and you will control the whole game, preventing your opponents from moving their pieces out. So if your opponent is making these pawn moves on the side right here, do your best to keep pushing pawns up. The further you push pawns up, the closer the wall that these pawns are attacking is going to be closer to your opponent. So you're going to keep your opponents from fighting at your house. Instead, they'll have to worry more about defending at their kingdom. Number 4, develop all the pieces. As I've said before, that all these pieces right here are on the bench. They're not scoring points, they're not doing anything if they are on the back rank. If you can find a way to bring out your knights and your bishops into the game, you're going to find that these pieces is going to have more things to do rather than just sitting back here. Don't make needless pawn moves that doesn't really help out towards the game. You need to make sure that these pieces have a job, give it some work, let them come out to the middle of the board to fight for your king. Number 5, castle early. After you have developed your pieces and you have removed the pieces in between the king and the rook, remember to castle your king as soon as possible. It is easier to attack the king if it was in the middle of the board. You give your enemies options to attack from this way, or even down the middle if you leave your king in the middle. But if you castle here, you only know that black only has a chance to attack one way. That means that he has to find a way to attack, and you know which way the attack is coming from. Again, if you leave your king in the middle, the attack can come from this side, or even up down the middle. Number 6, answer all threats. If you don't know what the word threat means, a threat is whenever a piece is attacking another piece. So if black decides to move this knight right here, you have to ask yourself, what pieces is he threatening, or what pieces is he attacking? So every time your opponent makes a move, find out which pieces is he attacking and make sure you defend against the move. So as you can see, this knight is attacking this pawn right here and right here, and this bishop, and it's also attacking this pawn. So this knight is in actually a good position to start attacking and threatening white's pieces. So white has to make sure that these pieces are defended properly, or else black is going to get away with a free attack or free piece. Number 7, look for double attacks. Whenever you are playing a game, find out where can you move the pieces in order to attack 2 pieces at the same time. And let me tell you why double attacks are very powerful in the game. For this example, we're going to create a fork where this knight moved to this square. It is now attacking this rook and this rook. This is a fork because it is now attacking 2 pieces at the same time. It is really hard to defend against a double attack in a single move. Black only has a chance to make one move. So that means that black can only move to a square with using only one piece. So even though he moves away to try to run away from this knight is still attacking this rook and taking its spot. Or we can look at a different type of double attack also right here with the bishop. Now this bishop can move here, and it's also attacking two pieces at the same time. So it doesn't matter where black decides to move, black will also lose a piece whichever piece it decides to move. Remember, double attacks are really hard to defend because you only have one move to make to defend against it. And also in this position, this bishop is attacking both the rook and the king at the same time. So this rook cannot move because the king will be under attack. So whenever you're playing game, find out ways to make double attack. Number 8, make a plan. Checkmates do not happen randomly. You have to find out, you have to make a map. Do you want to checkmate using 2 rooks? Or do you want to come in for a queen's bear hug checkmate right here? Or do you want to try and find a way to get rid of all these pieces so you can get to the king easily? Whichever way you choose is considered a plan. It is hard to win a game if you do not have a plan. So let's take, for example, if you are driving or if you used the GPS before, you have to know where you're going to go. You have to know your final destination. So why don't you find out where your final destination is on the chessboard? Because you can't use the GPS if you don't know where you're going. So for number 8, you have to make a plan. You have to find a way to checkmate your king. Just keep in mind, do you want to attack from this side? Do you want to come up through the middle? Or do you want to even come here? But no matter what, you have to strategize and you have to come up which way that you want to attack and checkmate your opponent's king. Number 9, take the initiative. Do not wait for your opponents to attack you. Find a way to make the first attack towards the king. So there's often times that I've seen people play, they're playing like this, they're just pulling up their pawns a little bit like this, and they bring out their knights, but they put their bishops still all the way back here, and they're just playing very slow. These pieces have not even passed up this line to even make an attempt to attack the white pieces. So if you wait for your opponents to attack you, you're going to have a higher chance of losing. So why not make a way to start attacking pieces, to find a way to get through towards the king? So remember, taking the initiative, finding a way to attack first. Number 10, control open lines. Rooks are great on open files and bishops are great on open diagonals. So rooks do not do well when they are hiding behind pawns. They do well when they are on an open file. So if you're able to place a rook on an open file, they can control this entire file. So that means whatever pieces step onto this file, you can just take them wherever they land along this way. Now, controlling open diagonals for bishops is the same way. You want to find a way to bring this bishop out into the game and start controlling these open diagonals in the game. If you make a move like this bishop is not being used to its full power. It is being trapped between these two pawns. It's almost as if you're using this bishop as a big pawn. You don't want to use the bishop as a big pawn. You want to make sure that it has room, it has freedom to come out and attack the board. Number 11, simplify when ahead. If you are ahead in pieces, try to trade to see a clearer picture of the chessboard. It is harder to see the entire chessboard when there are more pieces, but you can always find ways to trade off pieces in order to get rid of all the threats, and you can minimize any type of danger from your opponent. So in this case, I can always take this bishop and just come here. I could trade bishop, and even then this rook can come here to trade bishop for bishop. Or in this case, we can look at white trading rook for rook, because you'll still be ahead of pieces. Then your opponent now only has one bishop left. Rather than potentially having this rook to come around and clear up the whole board, you want to trade when you're ahead in material. so that you can get to the end game faster. That means your opponent will have less pieces to defend with. So you want to simplify the chessboard by trading pieces when you are ahead in material. Number 12, play for mate or checkmate. Taking away opponent's pieces is one way of getting ahead, but you should always look for ways to checkmate the king in order to win. Because taking away pieces, you could just waste time like this, take away a piece here, or even taking away a piece here. But in this position, white had only one move left to win the game. Why worry about taking away all your opponent's pieces, or I like to say go pawn grabbing like this. So we see these pawns right here. It's always nice to try to grab these early pawns or even just attack these pawns to take them off the board. But why worry about pawns when you can capture the king or checkmate the king in order to win the game? You simply could just bring your rook right here for a back rank checkmate, and that simply ends the game. Checkmating the king is almost as if you captured all your opponent's pieces. So if you're looking for a way to capture your opponent's pieces, find a way to checkmate the king first. I know that this video was long, and I know that it's really tough to grasp all these 12 principles. You're asking, Coach Dad, how tough? This is really tough. Like, all these 12 principles is so much to remember. I'll tell you this, it is easier to learn these principles if you are practicing these. So for every game, you can try to print out these principles and just have it with you, and maybe practice 2 or 3 principles per game. Eventually, you'll be doing these by memory. You'll start remembering, okay, I remember this part. I remember I have to do this. So if you are practicing a lot on these principles, then you're going to have a great chance of winning your games. If you do 4 of these principles, you're just an okay chess player. If you do 8 of these 12 principles, you're a pretty good chess player. But if you can find a way to do all 12 principles in a game, you're going to be a great and excellent chess player. So always remember to practice these 12 principles every single game. You can just make it easy by simplifying it, by moving with a purpose. If you commit this to memory, if you always remember how to do this, you're going to win more games. So always remember to keep on practicing, and also leave a comment down below to let me know which of these 12 principles is your favorite. And remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos that'll be released later on.